Hey, what is going on, Rugby Rant fans? It's Rob the Hammerschmidt, and we have a very interesting show for this evening. A unique show, a unique approach, something different, a hot take, if you will. We're not going to focus as much on the rugby side of the MLR and of particular teams. No, we're going to focus on the business side of things a little bit. It's perhaps one of those things I'm passionate about, I find interesting and engaging, but doesn't maybe get enough airtime as it should. Not that it should take a front seat to the rugby, but it's certainly without it, we don't spread the gospel of rugby either. So it's hand in glove, and it's important stuff. And we've got a super special guest. It's one of the individuals whose name came up to me because I think so highly of the New England Free Jacks organization. I've always spoken of how top to bottom that organization does so many things very, very right. And tip of the hat to Liz. Liz, you know I'm talking about you, Liz Hallcraft. She said the guy you got to talk to and connect with is my guest, Oliver Gilpin. So first, I'm going to welcome Oliver to the show. My mate, my friend, welcome to the show. It's good to have you on.
Rob, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So just to kind of continue with that, Liz brought your name up to me and said, this guy makes things tick at the New England Free Jacks. And I said, well, if there's a guy that I got to talk to him, because if he's making things tick there, then, and they're doing a lot of things right, I think there's a lot of value that fans and perhaps other teams could get out of this interview. So she speaks highly of you. I don't know how much you paid her on the side.
Yeah.
A wad of cash, a briefcase full of bills. I don't know.
Yeah, no, very kind of her level is to say that. But yeah, no, it's a big team. It's a small team, but it's all of us together. Yeah, I think really it's very kind of Liz to have said, but realistically, we work very hard and very well as a unit, and I think that's what really, that's why we put out great work and work that I'm proud of. It's just because we all pitch in and all dig deep. So yeah, no much much thanks to Liz, but yeah, definitely a team effort.
For sure. We're going to talk more about those efforts and what you guys do and what you guys do so well, and some of your thoughts and takes on marketing and design and that kind of work within the MLR. But just so people have a bit of a background on Oliver and where he comes from and where his background is and what he brings to the table for the Free Jacks, just let me speak to his CV. First of all, for those that don't know, currently with the Free Jacks in his role, he is a director of brand and campaign for the New England Free Jacks. I'll ask him in a moment after I'm done with the CV just to kind of explain kind of all the hats that he wears in that role, because I'm sure there are many. As he said, it's a small team. And so, as we know, a small organization, sometimes you have to be ready to put on a different hat at any given time. But let's talk about some of the other things that, has driven Oliver and what he does to build his CV and background and expertise. So he was the director of brand and creative campaign strategies for the In Between Days Music Festival, founder of Daiku remote marketing manager for Comstock Studios and marketing manager for Frisca Limited in the UK. And as you guys can't tell, Oliver is from the UK. He lives in the United States here. And interestingly, and I'm going to have to ask him to explain this a little bit or talk around it, he lives in the DC area, right? So the DMV. You'd think he'd be associated with the with Oh Glory, but no. He is associated with the Free Jacks. They snapped him up and haven't let him go. Perhaps, hopefully they won't, the Free Jacks whole idea is this revolutionary group to break away from Great Britain. Hopefully he doesn't hold that against anybody over there at the Free Jacks. But nevertheless, but he works remotely and does work for the Free Jacks up there in the Boston area. So first of all, Oliver, just for fans that don't know what that means to be a director of brand and campaign, and all the hats that you wear, can you just touch upon that for a moment before we get started today?
Yeah, of course. So it all falls under the marketing bracket, really. I build brands for the Free Jacks. So I manage the Free Jacks brand, and then the brands that sit beneath that, whether it be the academy, whether it be many of the events that we run, and then all of the sub brands that we have created. I also work under campaign, so I run all of the digital campaigns, marketing campaigns that we put out, and I'm responsible for individual ticket sales. And then I do all of the graphics and design elements, such as jersey designs, all the way to managing websites, apps, and all the digital touch points from there on out. The only thing I don't really do is the traditional media side of stuff, like PR and social media, which is taken care of by Brendan Buckley, an incredibly talented head of media that works with us. So yeah, we kind of split marketing directly down the middle. I take care of all of the design, creative, and ticket focused campaigns, and he takes care of all of the media.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And boy, maybe it's a bit of luck, maybe it's a bit of perception, maybe it's just my sense and understanding of organization. But I had a sense that you were involved in jersey design, and we want to get into that because like I said, you guys do a lot of things right, and I happen to think that the Free Jacks jerseys and some of the jerseys they put out are absolutely awesome, and I want to talk about that. But we'll leave that savory nugget for later for fans. So you just stick around, and we can they can have something to hang their teeth onto and not quite take a full bite yet. But at any rate, we're going to get into all this now that we understand what Oliver's role is and what he does and how much his hands are on the gas pedal of the Free Jacks and what they do and how they get the word out. So with that, I guess the important question for Oliver is, are you all set and ready to do a little interview here, my man?
Yeah, can't wait. Let's ride.
All right. Just don't say huzzah. I might have to kick you off. No, honestly, folks, we're going to be back with this interview in just a few moments, but we got to, thank our wonderful sponsor, Macron, who is making the league roll this year, as they say. So, and we have to thank them for sponsoring our Super Brew league this year. They've been awesome, and we already have some hoodies being delivered to fans, and they love them. So we're excited to be able to put that product out. And don't forget, folks, that we do indeed have a store. Now, only 3 teams, to my knowledge, have a Macron store in which you can buy Macron products that represent your favorite team. The Free Jacks are one of them, LA, and I believe it is DC, Old Glory, DC. So those are the 3. Other than that, if you want some great Macron products, the Rugby Rant store has some good stuff in there, and we try to keep the prices low for you. We're not taking a cent of commission because we want you to be bundled up in some tidy products. So with that, we're just going to get a word from our sponsors. All right, folks, we're back with Oliver Gilpin. Oliver, again, for those that have short memories, have maybe had a little too much celebration for those states that have legalized it. He is the director of brand and campaign for New England Free Jacks. And this is not going to be an RPK per se, but I've given Oliver the license to go ahead and kick or pass any question that he wants to, just so he doesn't get himself in trouble and put to the gallows by anybody from the Free Jacks. So let's start out first. I talked about Liz Holcraft and how she plugged me in with you and got me in connection with you and said, this is a guy you got to talk to. It was interesting as I was looking through and trolling your social media, Oliver. I
Mhm.
found a quote from Luke Underwood from the U.S. Pickleball, and he said this on your LinkedIn profile: "My time working with Oliver was an absolute pleasure. Being able to create and collaborate without ego makes Ollie a great teammate." So, my first question to you is a little bit more focused on you, your philosophy, your perceptions, how you do your work. In the field of business, it's all about promotion in your field of work and what you do, right? Self promotion, right? Grandiose, making things big, making things the best ever. Not that anybody that we know at any particular level would ever want to do that, but, or say that for that matter. But are you a unicorn because of the lack of ego, as Luke Underwood had said?
I I wouldn't say there's no ego. I think we've all got an ego to a certain extent. That's what makes us, want to do the best for, whether it be for the Free Jacks or whatever project I'm working on. I have a small amount of ego for sure, but I think it's a balance, right? We are all out here trying to um, create a sport or show a sport that we all love to the USA and bring this, what I truly believe is the greatest sport in the world to the US market. And so the best way to do that is to get to a place where you're comfortable um, building things. And building things means mistakes, and building things means collaboration. And ego is a little bit of the enemy of both of those things. So I think honestly, it's just important to really focus on the things that matter and the end goal. And ego is great when you're creating things that you love, but it's not so useful when you're working with teams and working towards a goal. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate those words from Luke. Great guy, awesome of him to say. But yeah, definitely there's an element of my philosophy is to collaborate. The best idea in the room is the one that wins, and a lot of the time that isn't mine. So yeah, that's kind of where I am, whether it be marketing or creative or brand. Yeah.
Nice. So I got to ask before we get too deep into the weeds and what you do, how you do it, particularly at the Free Jacks. I mean, you said rugby is the greatest sport in the world. So for fans that don't know you too well or just becoming introduced to you, you know, how did you get involved in the sport of rugby besides, just being from the UK and having, a background in UK based sports rather than, United States based sports?
Yeah. So my dad was a player, as is so many of the starts of stories with rugby. My dad played in the 60s and 70s, and yeah, he was a huge, advocate and loved the sport very much. And so it just became second nature to me. He was a little bit older as a parent, so had stopped playing by the time I was growing up. But yeah, we would just watch games constantly, and I was constantly begging to get out on the field. And so 7 years old, I strapped my boots on and went to play for the local side. Loved every second of it. Went through some of the academy stuff in the UK, in Somerset when I was a little bit older. I got to about I played hooker, loved every second of it, and I got to about 12, and I was still 4'9", and everyone else was far exceeding me in strength and size. And so my real career, sort of, my hopes and dreams of being a player finished pretty early. But yeah, no, I love the sport. I fell in love with the sport. Um, I've been a avid fan ever since. And I guess it's one of those things, right? If you can't play and you can't coach, then sell it, I suppose, was my method.
Well, you pretty do a pretty great job of selling it. So we appreciate all the work that you do there. I got to ask. So, what was your home club?
Western Rugby Club in Weston-super-Mare in the United Kingdom. Yeah, just south of Bristol in the southwest of England.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
folks in the United States should know about Bristol if you follow rugby at all. I mean, there's a pretty great American player
Yeah.
that played for the Bristol Bears on the ladies' side of things. So that's pretty cool connection. All right, well let's get into it a little bit. I was talking about ego earlier, and I know generally speaking, like one of the things, and this isn't, I'm not criticizing the league. I'm criticizing generically rugby in the United States. And I think it's probably the most preeminent at the college level. And for those that follow college rugby, they know what I'm talking about. I don't want to name names or anything like that, but it just seems to me that egos sometimes get in the way. They get in the way of progress, and they get away in the way of what's best for the sport. Right. So
Yeah.
my question to you: do egos often get in the way of progress in rugby?
Well, look, I mean, the best way to answer that is to look at the Free Jacks. Our core, our pillars are humble, hardworking, fun, and I think they're great pillars because being humble is the reduction of ego, right? And it's about working hard and staying humble. It's one of the reasons we don't have the stars on the jersey. It goes against us. We always want to stay humble, and we always want to work hard and give everything to what we're doing. So yeah, I mean, I can't speak too much to rugby in general with egos. But I would say what I've experienced at the Free Jacks is there's not egos, no egos really. And people coming together and working hard and building something that they truly believe in and love. And I think that's where the real work comes, and that's where the value is added. So yeah, I can only speak to what I've experienced, and what I've experienced has been phenomenal. So.
Awesome. I got to ask this question because you talk about the lack of egos at the Free Jacks and the pillars that are, support everything that the Free Jacks do and embody everything the Free Jacks do. And you mentioned the lack of stars. Are you talking about the lack of names on the backs of jerseys? You just talking about stars in terms of, I mean, there's two championships now. We know Seattle puts 2 stars above the logo.
Yeah.
Kind of explain to fans what you mean by that.
Yeah, so it's common practice, obviously in sports, rugby, but definitely sports like tennis, to display two stars or however many trophies or championships or shields you've won above or below your brand logo, as a homage to your past success. I don't innately think there's anything wrong with that. It's probably one of the things I get requested most and asked about most by fans. Is why can't we, have the stars on the jersey? And it simply is because we're so focused on moving forward, always moving forward and staying humble. And I think it's easy to forget the cultures and the behaviors that took you to the place of winning. I truly believe that winning's a side effect. It's not, it's something that happens when your cultures are right. I mean, your behaviors are right. And anyone who's done any level of exercise or fitness or sports, they know that winning comes when your habits are shaped correctly and when your cultures are shaped correctly. And I think that's the reason we don't do the 2 stars. I don't innately think there's anything wrong with that. I just think that's the way in which we're built. We focus on remaining as humble as possible.
That's really interesting that you guys have. And folks, for those that don't know, that's kind of the depth and level to which branding people think about how they're represented to fans, to people who want to become fans, to people in rugby circles. It's all about how you present yourself, and the fact that you guys have given that much thought as to whether or not you're going to put stars on your jerseys or around your logo connected with those championships. It gives everybody an idea of just how deeply that branding component means to Oliver and to the team itself. I got to ask this question just as an offshoot of that. Sam Harris, who was head coach of the Hounds, When I interviewed him at one point, it may have been when he was actually with Austin, he had said teams that have culture don't need to talk about culture. Teams that talk about culture don't have culture. So how true do you think that is?
That's an incredibly difficult question, because on the surface of that, I do agree, right? If you're constantly pointing, at the things you do, then necessarily they're not a culture, right? So I completely agree with that on the surface. However, we're in a very transitional sport. We have, players coming in, players going out. We have coaching changes. We have, it's a constant flow. And I think, we're only 6 months on. Then we have an incredibly long off season. So I think part of building a culture, part of building those things that matter, means that you have to eventually talk about it. You have to eventually be part of it. And I do agree, for the most part, with Sam. But I think there's an element of the sport itself where, because of the way in which it is operated, you do have to talk about it. You do have to discuss it. You do have to build it. And that just goes with the territory.
Gotcha. Interesting. I like that answer. It wasn't political. It was an answer just really truly represents your thoughts and philosophies on at the macro level, the Free Jacks and what you guys do, but also, in the micro level with the Free Jacks, what you guys do, but also the macro level and thinking about our sport and how it fits into the greater landscape of sports entertainment, sports marketing, and the American sports landscape in itself. So with that in mind, I want to talk more specifically about what you do, the Free Jacks, your role there, et cetera. It seems like teams could benefit from macro collaboration with the goal of achieving what George Killebrew years ago called rugby-tainment across the MLR. Is there an appetite for this type of organizational behavior, or going back to egos, are egos getting away? I don't know if that makes sense to you. And
no, yeah, I've got you.
Question.
Yeah. I think the one thing I will say is we are incredibly connected as a league. I can't speak to every facet of the league, but certainly within the marketing teams, we meet once a month, all of the marketing teams from the league. We have an open forum, we chat, we ask questions, we chat about what's working and what isn't. Jericho at the league does a fantastic job. She's the VP of marketing. She does a fantastic job of building a very open, collaborative forum. I think that's really important. So yeah, I can't speak to every facet of that, but we are it's base level. We are business partners, right? And for one of us to succeed, we all need to succeed. And I think from a marketing standpoint, anyway, from a from that area, we have a great collaboration. And I speak to the reason I know Liz, who recommended me to you to chat with. The reason that we know each other is because she was working at DC, and we would talk regularly. And I think we really do have an open, honest, helpful forum. So I can only speak to positives on that level.
And I thought that was really important for people to know, that there is, the league does not put out a lot about itself and how it operates and what it does. There's a lot of almost that behind the veil, that
Yes,
Yellow Brick Road, and you're in the city of gold, and the wizard is behind the curtain orchestrating things. And sometimes you don't see everything that's being orchestrated and how it's being orchestrated. But I think it's important to recognize that the teams do really buy into that idea that rising tides raise all ships. Mm-hmm. And this is just, as you pointed out, one of the ways that you guys have these monthly meetings.
And of course, that stops at the touchline, right? I think that's that's the thing to be clear about. That stops at the touchline. The second, I would chat with Liz. frequently, or any other members of marketing teams across the league. And the second that the whistle blew and we were playing DC, I wouldn't speak to Liz for a good 80 minutes, and then we'd be pals again. That's just how it works, right? You
Right.
wish each other well in a business sense,
Yeah.
but you also hope each other loses. That's the
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah, Liz, that's a great idea. Great idea. I hope you
Yeah.
guys lose and we kick your ass tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. It'd be great to put 100 points on you, but that's it.
That's awesome. And I think that's important because, as you say, you are ultimately, all teams are business partners. And really, with 11 teams, there's enough distance between these cities that you're not really stepping on each other's toes like, a Chicago. I mean, for those that don't know, White Sox and the Cubs in the baseball realm, the fans, true Chicago fans of those two teams, despise one another, right? Like, Cubs fans would rather the Sox get beat than win and win and the Cubs win. I mean, there's that heart of rivalry because it's almost like competition for fandom in Chicago. And then everybody comes together in the fall when the Bears take the field. We're still waiting for them to do that for the last 15 years or 20 years or whatever it is, but hopefully they will soon. Nevertheless, let's get back to rugby. Let's talk about Free Jacks. One of the things that's interesting is that I've noticed, the reason why I want to have you on, the Free Jacks have created a buzz in Quincy, Mass. No doubt about it. There is a groundswell of support amongst the people in that community and the greater community that's in and around Boston. In part, this is due to obvious on-field success. You win 2 championships and people will begin to come. But part of it is building a community within the Fort Quincy at the center, right? That stadium is kind of the center of this community. And you started to build around that philosophy. So what is one thing in your role that you're most proud of doing to help foster that community development around Fort Quincy?
That's an incredibly hard question because there are so many things, and all of them are other people's work, really. No, I mean, I support the marketing efforts, and I support in helping our team, whether it be in community, in academy. I support the rugby staff. And I support the players too with their efforts. So it's difficult to give you a one answer, to be quite honest. But I guess supporting the community efforts of Thomas Grant, also known as Wheels. You'll see him on the MLR broadcasts as well. He has done a phenomenal job of building community rugby and building participation and putting kids and the community first. And that's really the most important thing. So all of the work that I've done to assist him in his projects will be my one thing, I guess. Supporting Tom.
Well, Wheels is one of my favorite people in the rugby world for sure. He's just a phenomenal dude, super positive, so good at what he does, so much energy. It's amazing. The guy, he probably doesn't even have a personal life. But
I can almost affirm to that. Yeah. He's one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And he goes out and people won't know this, but he goes out and does mixed abilities rugby with to teach kids with mixed abilities the joys of rugby and what the sport's all about and the values of rugby. He goes out and teaches kids at the YMCA. He goes across New England and teaches kids how to play rugby, or even does academy combines where kids who are really keen to join an academy system, he meets them where they are. So he's doing all of these pieces and all of this work to just build the sport and for the love of his local community. And I think it's phenomenal, and those cultures are extended to the players. We've got amazing players. I'm sure you guys saw the broadcast at the weekend.
Mhm.
Ben Lesage and Andrew Quattrin come together every year and do a sock drop, Operation Sock Drop, where they
Oh,
put.
wait. I'm going to ask about all that stuff. Hold on.
All
Don't
right,
give
I'll
up
hold
too
it.
much.
I'll hold it. But yeah, it's all of
You're
those
like a
things.
prom queen going to prom. Don't give don't show too much. Just reveal just
Okay.
enough
All
so
right,
that you keep your date interested.
I'll put my
Okay?
dress back on. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I didn't. Wait. Hey, I never said never said to take it off. Just reveal enough to keep everybody engaged. That's it. All right. So, I want to talk about that because as a component, you guys had Free Jacks Fest this last weekend, and we're recording this the day after St. Patrick's Day, and a lot of the themes in Free Jacks Fest were built around the St. Patrick's Day idea, right? And one of those was a club tournament, right? And I think there was some youth stuff going on too
Yeah.
recently. I believe there's some academy stuff going on that Wheels is a part of. So I got to ask, all this stuff took place on St. Patrick's Day weekend, and the Light the Way Fest is going on in September. These are some of the projects I have to imagine you're heavily engaged in.
Yeah.
How are these events part of a larger strategy to become an anchor in the Quincy community?
Yeah. So, I mean, it boils down to the like Hong Kong Sevens theory of rugby is fun, right? And there's so many fun parts of it, and that's where the festival, the events piece came from. Really, is what is the kind of event that you really want to go to? Now, I think if we had a full community of people that were, really excited about rugby, maybe we'd have less of those things, but that would be a shame, because what we've essentially done is give you a ton of reasons to show up to an event, whether it be the community rugby piece in the morning, or the kids academy pieces, or maybe it's the bands that we have live music at the start of the day, the entire festival atmosphere that runs from sometimes as early as 9 o'clock in the morning all the way up until whenever kickoff is. This Paddy's Day, it was 2 o'clock. I just ran the stats, ran the numbers for the weekend yesterday, and 30% of our audience is getting there more than an hour before the kickoff. 80% of them are getting there with time to spare. So we have a lot of people coming to these events, enjoying the food, sharing a good time together, and it creates an environment where you're not just coming to watch the rugby. You can bring a friend who maybe doesn't have a rugby affiliation, or is it rugby adjacent, and it gives them an excuse. You go, like, well, the worst comes to the worst, like, we'll eat barbecue food and we'll drink beers and we'll listen to music, and then we'll hang out and watch some rugby, if we've still got time. And anyone, all of us know that it doesn't take much to get people hooked on the sport. It's a really great sport. So yeah, we're providing really like a wholesome day for everyone, and we're not really appealing. All of those things appeal to rugby fans because we're all humans, but we're also appealing to the families of rugby fans, the husbands and wives of rugby fans, the kids of rugby fans, friends, cousins. And I think that's what gives us a broader appeal. And that's why the events are so important in fan growth, in audience growth, and also essentially what pays for all of this to happen, which is ticket sales. So yeah, that's the reason we do those things.
What's interesting, Oliver, is I think about all that you said. It wasn't too dissimilar from what the Hounds put on at Dogtown this past weekend. I mean, minus the one thing they can't do there, probably due to the venue, is the beer and the food outside. That's the one thing you guys do a really nice job in, or are able to do a job in at Fort Quincy, is you're able to have beer fest and you're able to have vending trucks and things like that. That kind of, not that stuff is needed, but it certainly helps create a more community atmosphere. But this last weekend, it's funny because my sister-in-law, who never played sports in high school, who follows God forbid, the Packers. She's a Packers fan, which is practically blasphemy here in Chicago.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. The wounds are still taking time to heal. But, nevertheless, she went with my wife to the game this weekend. I was on the sidelines, and, she had a great time.
Yeah,
It was like you said, she's a rugby adjacent fan, right? Somebody
yeah,
that just anchored to, brother-in-law is involved and stuff like that, or nephew plays. And
mhm,
she came in, she really enjoyed it. And I have no doubt the next time we say, hey, why don't you come to a game, that she will do that,
absolutely.
because she had such a great time. And the fact, and I'd encourage folks that are anchors in the rugby community at Fort Quincy and around that area, and anybody else that goes to games in your MLR town, when there's a new person, and at the end of the day, ask them if they had a good time.
Yeah,
Ask them if they had a good time, because that will keep them coming back. The fact that you cared enough to find out why you came and if you enjoyed yourself and how the experience can be made better. So, for sure, I love that stuff. That's awesome to hear. I want to move along because I got to ask more about Fort Quincy. At some point, that 4,000 seat or 5,000 seat stadium, right? It fits about
mhm,
5,000.
yeah,
Right.
just over
Perfect size
5,000.
for the MLR right now.
Mhm,
Will be too small. I mean, you guys are selling out matches as it is,
yeah,
right? And I'm of the belief personally that, um, when you make something difficult to get, then everybody wants it. Exclusivity breeds interest, right? So the fact that some fans can't go and turn up on the day and just buy a ticket, that makes them go, I want to buy season tickets next year. So that doesn't happen to me, right? But at some point, that venue will be too small. And some might argue that the Free Jacks are almost at that point, selling out quite frequently. So my question is there a concern about losing the community if a different venue is needed?
we are very lucky, and this is slightly outside my area of expertise, but we're very lucky to have an amazing relationship with the city of Quincy. Um, we have a great relationship with the guys over there, and we really work together in so many ways. And I just, we're actually currently having a stadium build right now. We're having more seats put in the in the Delta in the suites side. We are expanding our suites because that's actually our biggest area of growth. Yeah, we're moving. We're selling more suite packages. We're selling more seated tickets. SRO is actually the smaller standing room only is the smaller sales piece now. Whereas it even just last year made up 30% of our 40% of our tickets. Now that's coming down comparatively to the suites. So we're already growing. We're already expanding. We're already looking to add seats to that stadium in partnership with the city of Quincy. And yeah, and look, I mean, never say never. I haven't got a crystal ball, but the one thing I will say is that the Quincy generally is a place of problem solvers. It's a place of doers. It's a place where there's just grit and if the city of Quincy wants us to stay, then we will stay. And that's just I think there's a great relationship there. We wouldn't lose it.
Well, that's great to hear, and you actually answered my next question because I wanted to ask about that element. Like, is there a plan for that growth? And it certainly sounds like there is, and it certainly sounds like philosophically, the Free Jacks are there to stay as long as the city of Quincy will let them stay, or will be a partner in that process. And that's a promising thing. It can only make the experience for fans, both home and those fans traveling to see their team play away, a better product and a better experience overall. It's awesome to hear. Um, Perfectly, yeah, and I think you're perfectly suited to answer that question. To be honest with you, you know exactly what's going on, and that's what I was looking for. Um, so moving forward, um, let's get back to one of the things that I want to talk to you about because I had a sense, my spidey sense was tingling that somehow I knew you were involved in the some of the kit, or if not all of the kit that was being put on the players' back. So I have to say, like I alluded to before, the Free Jacks have some of the best alternative kits in the league. They always have. And I I gotta be honest, the hoops, they're sorry, folks. If you've heard it once, you're going to hear it again. Yes. I love the fact that, like, there are certain elements of jerseys that will always remain. Like the Blackhawks you can buy a jersey from 30 years ago. You walk in the United Center and you're going to still feel at home with that jersey on your front, not outdated. It's one of the things that bothers me about some of the soccer teams is that,
Yeah.
like Wrexham, like all of a sudden they're wearing a green jersey, when they traditionally have worn red, right?
Right.
So I love the hoops. I love it, at least, on one jersey's always going to be hoop. But
Yeah.
that being said, the St. Patrick's Day kits this weekend, freaking fire. Even more fire, the city kit that
Yeah.
was designed and came out probably about a month ago. It was released and can be ordered. All of them on the Free Jacks website. So if you haven't gotten one, get one because they look fantastic. Right. So I got to ask, with your branding and marketing background, how much influence have you had on these elements? And I think a secondary that I got to ask is the city jersey going to be worn at some point?
So yeah, let's do that in the order that you asked. Yes, I design all of the kit. So all of the kit that the players are wearing, that's me. I physically design it. In the case of the city kit, I hand drew that the illustrative elements, and then I went in and finished them on computer. So I do all of the kit design, whether it be the home jerseys or all the alternative jerseys too. And yeah, I love it. I love the history, and to sort of that's something that really makes me excited. I always joke and say it's doing what I do is better than working for a living, and genuinely I love every second of it. It's one of the things that I love the most. And the second part of that question, yes, the kitty sit, not quite. The city kit will be worn. Yeah, we will be playing in that. We have Quincy's birthday is coming up, 400 years, and we will be wearing it to celebrate the 400 years of Quincy. So yeah, I love every second of the design work.
See, folks, that's what branding people do. They think so far ahead, and everything has a purpose, everything has a meaning, everything has a reason for being, if you haven't gotten that sense. And so I'm going to ask a follow-up on that city kit. For those that don't know or haven't seen it, please check it out. I should have put a graphic up here. I neglected to do so. But Oliver, I'm curious, for people that haven't seen it, what are they going to see in this that really embodies and embraces this 400-year anniversary of Quincy? And I'm going to speak for my partner, Scott Ferrara, who couldn't be with us tonight. Are there any Easter eggs in there in that
Yes.
kit? Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
of course.
Let's have it.
Let's do it. Yeah, so
go.
the 400 kit, it is it's in a full celebration of Quincy. They're called the City of Presidents. In the illustration on the back, you will see the Church of Presidents, which is is downtown Quincy. John Quincy Adams is buried there, and it's a real center point of the downtown Quincy and the Quincy that really built America. I mean, it's the birthplace of the American dream, and so that's in there. And then the kit design itself, it's the illustration style is almost like an old banknote. It's an engraving style, and that is actually people may not know, but Paul Revere is the lantern, the night ride. He's the person that's on the Free Jacks logo. He was actually a silversmith, and he used engraving styles. He did one of his most famous pieces was the Boston Massacre cup that he designed, and so we used those engraving styles to build the illustration. And so we use those pieces, and we use Easter eggs from from the city, from the city of Quincy. We use the Easter eggs of the illustration styles to tie back not only to the Free Jacks, but to the history of America and the birthplace of the American dream.
Okay, and I apologize here. I am currently trying to pull up that picture just because I think it's so fabulous. Let's see if I can make that happen here, real quick, just for people at home that maybe are watching and haven't seen it. Sorry about that, folks. Let me get a good one here.
Yeah, and to your question earlier, we are going to wear that on the field. Yeah,
that's awesome. Won't let me do it. That's all right. All right. Anyway, if you haven't got it, get a chance to check it out. You can go to the Free Jacks website, go to their merch shop, check it out. It's a fabulous, fabulous piece. I mean, I really had to stop buying jerseys other than the teams that I support because I have a closet full of them, and my wife might murder me. But that's one of the ones that I went, that's worth getting because it is so cool.
She may murder you, but at least you'll look great, right?
That's that's right. I'd get that nice white jersey all bloody, for sure. Of course, it would remain true to a rugby jersey then.
There we go.
So I guess that's okay. That's awesome. Cool stuff. So let's kind of move forward. I want to talk a little bit more at a broader scheme of things and tap into that marketing side of what you do. The NRL, all right, the Rugby League, was able to get Rant to promote the recent matches in Vegas that took place probably about a month ago.
Yeah.
Is the MLR, in your opinion, missing the boat by not trying to do the same thing with the likes of Jason Momoa, or who's connected to New Zealand, who's been known to wear an All Blacks jersey, or a guy like The Rock, who's talked about being from New Zealand, having played rugby growing up? So I'm kind of curious if we're missing the boat.
Yeah, I mean, look, celebrity works, right? So, whether it's the Angel City with Natalie Portman, Wrexham with Ryan Reynolds, celebrity works. I don't think it makes or breaks. I don't think it makes or breaks us. And I do think it's great. I do think it creates a story that's important. If I was in LA, I'd probably designate an entire section of my stands to Jason Momoa or The Rock or whoever, because it's a good story, and it makes it's a great piece. But look, I think a lot of those pieces fall on each team. I don't think the league has got a lot going on, and they provide a lot for us. And I think the overarching promotion, they did a great job when it came to supporting the championship finals, and they do support people like huge music acts. Like Shaq was a big part of the 2023 MLR final, and that was supported and helped along by the league. And I know that a lot of that the weight there fell on Chicago too. But look, I think what's difficult is we aren't creating a one-time spectacle. We're not creating an event that happens in Vegas once or twice a year. What we're creating is a really strong, tight brand. And I think the best way to create those pieces is it's two ways. One is to spend money on digital marketing because it works and you reach people, but probably more importantly is to shake hands and to meet people and come to the stadium. And if you look at our success in the city of Quincy and New England, we're almost, like you said, we're almost selling out the stadium every game. We're right around that number. We sold 4,200 tickets this weekend, and we didn't need a celebrity there. And I think realistically, people engage with celebrities because it's a storytelling piece. They want to see behind the curtain in lots of ways. But I don't believe that celebrity is the be all and end all when you're trying to create a brand that people really engage with and love and want to wear and want to support. it can be helpful on the road to that destination. But our goal essentially is to increase our season member holders, get people there 8 games a year, and to not just buy but believe in the brand. Not just, it's not necessarily about like buying merch, but it's about the fans that go the extra mile, who come to watch parties, who support the people that support us. The people that, for you guys, even, support you by supporting Macron. The same for us, supporting us by buying Free Jacks IPA. So I think that isn't necessarily celebrity led. And I think to build a strong brand that people care about and love, it takes more than newsworthy pieces. And that isn't a very popular opinion, because to achieve that takes a lot. It takes a long time, and it takes dedication, and it takes years of giving to a community and engaging with a community and figuring out what works for that community. And unfortunately, there's no silver bullets when it comes to building a sport or building a team or building a brand. It is all about hard work and meeting people where they are. And so, yeah, I think it would be great to have big names in the sport. And if those big names are you want to be involved, that's fantastic. We're really lucky to have amazing, celebrity owners. Rugby legend Nate Ebner, Pat Chung, both Super Bowl heroes, New England Patriots, family names, household names across New England, and they're an amazing element of that cocktail that creates an important brand and a great rugby club. And we're massively thankful for them, having them and all the work that they do actually to help us. But I don't think they're the silver bullet. They're not the only reason that people show up. So yeah, that's.
So what you're really talking about is sustainability. That it's one thing if you have people like Nate and Patrick that are involved frequently and consistently, that do things to help build and integrate with all the other good work that the Free Jacks are doing. But just the one-off entertainers don't really do a whole lot long term to make what you do sustainable. So it makes a lot of sense, and I think that's an important piece for fans to keep in mind. So, all right, I'm going to ask you to potentially throw somebody under the bus, or maybe the opposite of that is to highlight some folks and thereby throwing some other people maybe by absence under the bus. So I got to ask, besides the Free Jacks, what teams in the league are hitting their stride on brand building and marketing?
Oh, that's easy.
I'm particularly interested in the brand building piece.
Yeah, brand building piece is easy. Look, I mean, every single team in the league is doing fantastically, right? Their teams are really hitting their stride. But the teams that I look to and think, wow, wow. I mean, you can't you can't not notice Chicago. The work that they do in everything. I mean, their design work is phenomenal. Their brand consistency is phenomenal. The outreach is phenomenal. I subscribe to every newsletter, and they do great work at storytelling, and they've put money behind storytelling, and they've put money behind players, and they've put if I can't speak highly enough of the United States of Rugby, the documentary series on Roku. They're doing fantastically well, and I love all of their work. And I think they're really hitting their stride, and they're telling stories that people care about. So definitely over there. I really love San Diego in lots of ways. I think their brand, as a team on the field, I think they're really hitting their stride now. I think the points speak for themselves. I think that sometimes they're a little performance focused, but I do think that they do a great job. Very clean. So I think it's no surprises. I mean, they're two of the great ones. So yeah, they're probably where I would put my I'd share my admiration.
Interesting. Yeah, the United States of Rugby, I've really enjoyed it. And I think it's because it hasn't been afraid to tell a story, even if the story has a little bit of pain incorporated. And I mentioned Sam Harris earlier in our interview, and I consider Sam a friend. It was tough to see him go, but I
Mm.
thought that it did a really nice job of telling that story and telling it in a respectful manner to Sam.
Yeah,
Um, even my wife, as she watches, she was almost in tears watching Sam leave,
yeah,
knowing full well though that it almost had to happen in a sense because of where the
mm,
team was at. But the fact that they allowed him to do it in a way that worked for him and was respectful of all the work that he had done was
mm.
great. But that story, yeah, I agree. I think that was a great story and it's being told so well. Um, I'm curious. The Free Jacks had their 2 championship banners put on display in the international terminal at Logan Airport.
Hmm.
Can you tell fans how that came about?
Yeah. So look, I mean, Boston is the city of winners, city of champions. It's just in the city's blood. I think it's in the DNA. And we had been speaking to Logan for a long time. We've been talking to them about it's Massport is the people that operate it there, and we've been speaking to them for a long time. And the shout out to Dave, our old COO, who Dave Jones, who had organized all that. He'd organized things like our kit is actually available in Logan too. You can get Free Jacks merch on the way out of on the way out of Logan, which is incredibly handy, I think, for most of us who forget to buy people gifts. And we get to the airport and think, oh, we should probably get something. So yeah, that's been a huge win for all of the team. But yeah, so and we were in talks with Logan, and they were we were chatting about raising the banner, and then the Celtics won as well, and they cleared a spot, and we got our two banners raised. And for me, it was just the one of the best moments, because it just really affirmed that we're part of that culture, and we're home, and we're right beside those huge brands and huge names. So yeah, it was a massive day for us.
Absolutely, 2 big accomplishments, not only getting that footprint there as a representation, especially in the international terminal where you have so many international clients, some expats, and people who are familiar with the game kinda see those and go, "Wait a minute, there's rugby here." And they
Mm,
feel that much more at home in the Boston area, right? And then just having that the merch in the shop, again, kinda puts you in on that level with, yes, we're a pro sports franchise in here, in and amongst some other great pro sports franchises. So it's great to see an awesome feather in the cap, so to speak, for the New England Free Jacks, and a credit to all the work you guys have done behind the scenes. But obviously, the on-field success allows that to happen, right?
yeah.
So, last question here, and we're hitting our stride here right about the hour mark, and it's been a great conversation with Oliver just to talk about the business side of rugby. And as a matter of fact, it's kind of this. I've enjoyed the conversation so much, Oliver, that I've kind of thought about. We did a coaches corner to preempt the season to just talk about the rugby and where the coaches were at. We had 5 new coaches in the league, and it was important for me, to talk with those coaches and just to give fans access, so to speak, as a preemption to the season. But I almost feel like that there's an opportunity now to have a conversation with teams about branding, marketing, about more the business side of what
Yeah.
teams are doing. And this conversation. It's been inspirational, my friend,
Oh, thank you. I
for
appreciate
sure.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot
So
of fun. Yeah.
I might just have to work on that element a little bit as we move forward. So, last question here for Oliver, and again, Oliver Gilpin from the New England Free Jacks, talking about branding, marketing, design, and all the stuff that he does there. Besides just make the kit. So, how do teams and the league take the next step in branding and marketing their product? Like, you can never stop. You kind of mentioned that earlier. You
Yeah.
always have to be looking for that edge, whether it's a team or whether it's the league as a whole. So what's the to borrow that comment from Captain Kirk, what is the new frontier for, on the branding marketing side?
For me, it's all about understanding what our product is. What is it that what is the product? What are we selling? And I think the the honest truth is rugby is the main big exciting part of that. But extending that experience to fantastic game days, extending that experience to a social media that makes you want to log in every day and see what the Free Jacks are up to. And we're very lucky with Brendan, who is one of the most fantastic storytellers, who can tell an entire story in 15 seconds and that never fails to make me laugh. You know, creating touch points, understanding what your product is, and then we are able to grow that product, to appeal to more than just diehard rugby fans. And diehard rugby fans will be the core of this forever. Diehard rugby fans will be the people that we will be talking to, who will be getting involved with the way in which the sport builds and the way in which that we bring people in. But building a product that appeals to larger markets, it is just going to grow rugby, and figuring out what it is that we're selling and how it is we can engage with the community. I think those are the things that are really going to make the difference in future. And look, I love that we focus on great branding and design in the same way that Chicago does. And I would love to sit here and tell you that the reason we're successful is because I run great digital campaigns, or because I have designed a beautiful jersey, or because we do great game day programs and people can find out more about us. All of those pieces are great, but realistically, the reason that people come back is because the product works, and because people love what we do in the stadium, they love what we do online, and they love watching us play. And at the end of the day, the reason people like all of those things is storytelling and shared experiences. And I think, that's it. I mean, it sounds so simple when you say it that way, but yeah, figuring out that product, what appeals to people, and just make it exciting. I mean, the best way to share rugby is to bring people in, and so give your fans an excuse to bring their friends and their family and their cousins and everyone else, because it's the push-pull tactic, right? It's like, as marketers, we can push information, and we can have the most amazing email campaigns, and we can have digital campaigns. We can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on influencers who are going to tell your fans that this is the best experience in the world, or you can literally show them. I'm a recent father, and I had sort of had this like light bulb moment the other day where my son didn't want to eat his breakfast, and I was sat at the table, and it was driving me nuts, and I was trying like the airplane thing, and I was dancing around doing stupid faces, and that's essentially marketing, right? You're like trying to push it forward. The thing that worked was that I took a bite and was like, oh, this is great, and I really enjoyed it. And instantly my son, which is human nature, wanted to be part of that. And I think that's really the key, is like, create something that's really fun, create something that's really exciting, create something that you want to share, and just show the world how fun it is, and people will want to be a part of it. And then you don't have to push it. It comes naturally. So yeah.
I love that analogy. I mean, because it's so true. It is so true when you show how much you love it, how much you enjoy it, how much others enjoy it, and that's again goes back to, I think, that exclusivity piece, right? No, you can't have it. Sorry,
Yeah.
mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you have to wait till next game if you really want to go to those tickets. You just but you can't go today. It's all of a sudden now it's like, oh, well, I got to get in on that. So you kind of take a different route. So again, for folks that are coming in, if you haven't checked us out, please do having a wonderful conversation with the director of brand and campaign at the New England Free Jacks. That is none other than Oliver Gilpin. It's been absolutely fabulous to talk about the business side of things, of MLR and of the New England Free Jacks, and what we're doing in rugby here in America to try to develop a fan base. I thoroughly enjoyed every moment.
Well, thanks, Rob, and thank you to you and Scott as well for doing everything you're doing for rugby and the growth of rugby and for the league. It's massive, and the more we talk about it and the more fun we have, the more people want to be part of it. So, a huge thank you to you guys too.
No problem. And if you could just tell everybody that this is your favorite podcast over and above the Jacks Rangers, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I don't see there being a problem with that at all. Yeah, if we could. Do you remember kick? Is it too late to kick?
Yeah, right. Or just pass, one of the two, either way. So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience, wonderful sitting down and talking to you. Hopefully fans, I think fans will get something out of this for sure, and just kind of see the flip side, the side that maybe isn't, the day-to-day operational thing that makes the rugby happen and makes the rugby be able to be put on the field, right? If we don't have the business side of things, if we don't have the digital marketing, the campaigns and strategies and things that go into that, the design and branding, then the rugby on the field might not happen or won't happen because it's just not attracted to fans, and fans won't come out and see it. So vitally important stuff that you're doing, and I appreciate it. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining, folks. Again, reminder, Macron gear is out there. A few teams have it. Free Jacks are one of them. LA, and the last one is Old Glory DC. But if you don't want any of that merch, you can get some fabulous merch from the Rugby Rant store. And again, we are not taking a commission because we want you guys to have the gear that the players are wearing, and you can support what we do just in a in a marketing sort of way. So at any rate, yeah. Check it out. We'll be putting it out there. You're going to see products come from us for the next couple of weeks. But anyway, I want to once again thank Oliver for joining us. It's been absolutely fabulous, inspirational, and exciting. And we can't wait to see what else the Free Jacks are doing as they continue to move forward.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Cheers. And with that, folks, we'll be back for some more Run Past Creek interviews moving forward in the future. Next week, we'll have Mitchell Short from the Chicago Hounds joining us. His wife might be on the show too. I think she wants to get some FaceTime. So maybe we'll see if that can happen. At any rate, stick around. We'll be back with episodes every week, as always, because we're just trying to grow rugby one fan at a time. And we hope you continue to follow us in our quest to do just that. But with that, we'll see everybody at